Chapter 1348. Bai Feng raised her head. She no longer had that gentle and delicate expression on her face. In its place was a cold and arrogant look. When Bai Feng realized that there was no way for her and the others to explain herself, she decided to drop the act. She returned to her cold and arrogant self. She looked down at Hu Yenyang and the others and laughed coldly. So what if the Bai family is behind all this? Do you dare to lay a finger on me? Don't forget that I am not just the eldest daughter of the Bai family. I am also the young mistress of the Huo family. What right do you have to lay a finger on me? What right do you have to lay a finger on me? Her gaze swept across all the family members present. Her gaze was arrogant as she looked at them, and a hesitant expression appeared on her face. Hu Yinyang, do you know? The most successful thing I have done in my life was to set you up. Marry Hua Ting. Bai Feng looked at Hu Yinyang and lifted her head proudly. She played with the caramel on her fingernails and said proudly. You don't know how good he is to me. How honorable the identity of the young mistress of the Huo family is. So what if you've invited these people and exposed our Bai family secret? You still can't do anything to me, can you? Hu Yinyang, you must know that all these identities should have been yours. Ha! Unfortunately, it's all mine now. Furthermore, this time, none of you from the Hu family can even dream of stepping out of the Bai family's front door. Bai Feng, who had completely revealed her true nature, looked at Hu Yinyang and the others with an icy gaze. She then turned to the surrounding family members and said coldly, if you don't want to be dealt with by the Huo family, get out of here immediately and keep your mouths shut. Bai Feng's words instantly caused the surrounding people from the various clans to reveal furious expressions on their faces. However, because of the threat in Bai Feng's words, none of them dared to voice their anger. They were really angry at the Bai family's actions. They did not want the Bai family to continue being so arrogant. But, they could deal with the Bai family. The Huo family was not to be trifled with. Putting everything else aside, the Huo clan was one of the top clans in Wildland City, and they had a saint overseeing them. Hua Ting, on the other hand, was the most favored successor of the Huo family in this generation. Bai Feng was Hua Ting's wife. Even if the Bai family had done something so outrageous, the Huo family would suppress the matter for the sake of the Huo family's reputation. The small and medium-sized families present were no match for the Huo family. In Wildland City, the difference in strength between the clans was just that cruel. The difference in level was also huge. The strong enjoyed all the privileges, while the weak could only swallow their anger. Just as the group of clansmen were holding their breaths and preparing to retreat, a faint voice suddenly sounded from behind Hu Yenyang and the others. The eldest daughter of the Bai family sure talks big. But I really want to know who the Huo family will find to avenge you if they can't spread the news. The Bai family has mysteriously died in the inner courtyard of their own home. It is suspected that someone is seeking revenge. However, the identity of the culprit is too mysterious and too powerful. Many of the powerful family members present have done their best to help, but they are helpless. How sad. Eldest daughter of the Bai family, what do you think? Chapter 1349. Young Master. Luo Qingtong's figure appeared in front of the crowd as their voices rang out. Luo Qingtong pulled Chu Lingfeng along with an indifferent expression on her face. They walked through the path that family who had opened up and stood in front of Hu Zhongtian and the others. As for Bai Feng, after hearing Luo Qingtong's words, her expression changed instantly. You! She could not be bothered to investigate Luo Qingtong's identity. She quickly lifted her head and looked around her. Then, she suddenly realized that this place seemed to be a little too quiet. Apart from this group of people, there was not a single sound coming from outside. Where were the Bai family's guards? When Bai Feng had just threatened Hu Yannyang and the others, she had secretly crushed the summoning order in her hand to gather the many powerful cultivators and elite guards of the Bai family. However, at this moment, apart from this group of people, there was no one else present. Bai Feng's heart was filled with shock and anger. Luo Qingtong's voice slowly rang out at this moment. There's no need to look. Her expression was indifferent as she lifted her eyes to look at the shocked and furious Bai Feng and the others. I've already sealed off the surrounding space with my array. No news or movements from here can be transmitted out. You can do as you please. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent as she spoke with a smile. Her last words were naturally directed at the people from the various family clans who were preparing to evacuate. After Luo Qingtong had pulled Chu Lingfeng out of the dungeon, she had not been idle. When Hu Yannyang and the others arrived, she had been busy in the depths of the inner courtyard. Now, everyone here was enveloped in the array that she had set up. Bai Feng wanted to inform the Huo family to come and save them. She must be dreaming. Since Luo Qingtong knew about her relationship with the Huo family, how could she not have taken precautions against her having a backup plan? Today, everyone from the Bai family must die. Only with their deaths could she avenge family Hu and protect the news of family Hu's map of the holy monarch's tomb. Luo Qingtong did not doubt that if the Bai family managed to escape this ordeal, they would immediately tell the Huo family about the map of the holy monarch's tomb. When that time came, it would inevitably attract more trouble. Luo Qingtong did not wish for any more twists and turns in the matter of the holy monarch's tomb. As Luo Qingtong's words rang out, the people from the various family clans who were preparing to evacuate immediately and the others' footsteps immediately stopped in their tracks. Their stomachs. The Bai family had caused them so much trouble, yet Bai Feng's mention of the Huo family made them not dare to make a move. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't aggrieved or angry. Especially when they thought of the possibility that the Bai family had played tricks in their families, they became even angrier and more furious. However, Bai Feng was the daughter-in-law of the Huo family, and the Bai family was the Huo family's in-laws. They could make a proposal to the Bai family and ask for compensation, but they would not dare to lay a hand on the Bai family like family Hu's people. Now that Luo Qingtong had spoken, their eyes instantly lit up. Especially after seeing the shocked and furious expression on Bai Feng's face, they were even more certain and believed in Luo Qingtong's words. If Bai Feng and the others could not spread the news, then even if they killed Bai Feng and the others, so what if they annihilated the Bai family? Chapter 1350. All of you. Seeing the other clans surrounding them, the expressions of the Bai clan's people became even more furious. Bai Feng was the same. She had tried several methods but was unable to send a message out of Luo Qingtong's array. She was also unable to get any response from the Bai family's elite guards outside. Her expression was indescribably twisted. Don't be so smug. Even so, this is our Bai family's territory. We still have the advantage. Bai Feng's face was filled with ferocity. Her eyes were cold. Even though Hu Yannyang's people had used an array to seal the space here, the inner courtyard was still an important place for the Bai family. When they came, they had brought many guards with them. With just these people and the Bai family's strong cultivators, it would not be a problem to wipe out all these people. After all, these people that Hu Zhongtian had called over did not bring many people with them. Most of the clans only sent their clan leaders or clan elders to come. Since they wanted to make a move against the Bai family, they might as well destroy them as well. They could then push the blame onto family Hu. However, Bai Feng's face was filled with malevolence as she thought, plop, plop, plop. The guards of the Bai family who were following them suddenly swayed and fell to the ground. All of them were unconscious. Bai Changfeng and the rest were also thinking the same thing as Bai Feng. However, before they could give the order, all the guards on their side had fallen. As a result, the Bai family's strong cultivators were facing off against Family Hu and the other families. The Bai family's advantage was gone. The other families, including Family Hu's people, had completely offset the number of strong cultivators on their side. In fact, the other side had the upper hand. Their original plan to let the guards hold off these people first, then they would work together to break the array. However, it had failed. Alright, all the obstacles have been cleared. Let's do it. As Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, Hu Zhongtian and the rest immediately made their move. Although those clans were somewhat shocked by Luo Qingtong's methods, they were also curious about her identity. But at this time, he didn't have time to think too much. He directly followed Hu Zhongtian and the others and rushed towards Bai Changfeng and the others. The other party had done a lot of things in their family and had the backing of the Huo family. They had to be eliminated. Otherwise, their clans would most likely end up in the same state as the Hu clan. Bai Changfeng and the others didn't even have time to recover from their shock before they were forced to fight back. In the blink of an eye, the entire area near the exit of the dungeon was filled with traces of heaven and earth spirit qi rioting. Rumble. A group of Sage Realm experts and those who had surpassed the Sage Realm were attacking each other. Chapter 1351. Luo Qingtong's voice rang out. Chu Lingfeng, go ahead. She looked at the big, foolish man next to her. Did Bai Feng really think that she had escaped death by a fluke? How could Luo Qingtong allow her to pass out just like that? After all, Yen Yang was still waiting for her to avenge her mother. Of course, Yen Yang did not have any cultivation, but it was the same for Chu Lingfeng to avenge her. After all, a son should avenge his mother. Furthermore, even though Yen Yang had not mentioned it, Luo Qingtong could vaguely guess that Chu Lingfeng's stupidity might have something to do with the fact that Yen Yang had been hunted down when she was pregnant. Under those circumstances, Yen Yang was already very lucky to have been able to keep her life. She probably would not have been able to take care of the child in her womb. Hence, Chu Lingfeng's revenge was perfectly justified. Yes. Chu Lingfeng obeyed Luo Qingtong's every word. In reality, ever since he had seen Bai Feng and found out that this woman was the main culprit who had almost killed his mother and caused her to suffer for the rest of her life, Chu Lingfeng had stared at Bai Feng with bloodshot eyes. He was like an enraged ferocious beast as he stared fixedly at her. If not for the fact that his loyalty to Luo Qingtong had been engraved in his bones and that he could not act without his master's orders, Chu Lingfeng would have charged over without regard for anything else and torn this woman to shreds. When he heard Luo Qingtong's orders, his figure flashed and he immediately charged towards Bai Feng. Bai Feng, on the other hand, became even more vigilant when she realized that she was not affected by the knockout powder. The powerful cultivators were now engaged in a chaotic battle near the exit of the dungeon. When Bai Feng saw that no one was paying attention to her, her eyes turned gloomy and cold as she prepared to conceal herself and leave. Once she had left the area enveloped by the array, she would make sure that all the people in family who would die without a burial place. She was viciously swearing in her heart when suddenly, she heard a strong whooshing sound. The sound came from afar and it almost caused a series of sonic booms in the air. When it reached Bai Feng's ears, it was like a thunderclap. Boom! Bai Feng's face instantly turned pale with fright as the gust of wind blasted towards her. She desperately dodged to the side. At this moment, she hated the fact that she was only a martial emperor. Furthermore, her cultivation had barely stabilized at the martial emperor realm. Regardless of whether it was her response or attack, she was much weaker than her previous strength. Bang! As Bai Feng dodged, the gust of wind brushed past her waist. With a loud bang, she smashed into the hard limestone floor. In an instant, the huge bluestone slab, which was about 6 feet thick, was smashed open by the strong wind. The sky was filled with stone fragments and dust. At the side of Bai Feng's waist, where the gust of wind had brushed past, she instantly felt an intense pain as if her bones had been broken. It was so painful that Bai Feng could not help but cry out in pain. Ah! Her voice was sharp, and in the next second, she fell to the ground. Bang! At the place where the gust of wind had landed, the dust and smoke dispersed to reveal a tall and well-built figure. Bai Feng, you've harmed my mother. I want you to pay with your life. Chu Lingfeng's low, muffled voice rang out. In an instant, like thunder, the bones in his body suddenly made a series of cracking sounds. Chapter 1352. Bam! Chu Lingfeng's physique and the power of his attacks made him look like a human-shaped weapon that was filled with a ferocious aura. Bai Feng had just crawled up from the ground and quickly dodged to one side when she saw the situation. Boom! 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 As Chu Lingfeng threw out punch after punch, the surrounding air and ground shattered like dust. The energy ripples that spread out were like water ripples in an instant. The strong winds from Chu Lingfeng's attacks actually formed a substantial vortex of spiritual energy in the air. One should know that his powers had only just reached the martial emperor level. Now, it seemed that he could completely defeat Bai Feng. Bam! 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 Bai Feng's beautiful face turned pale as she retreated rapidly. Initially, she had been delusional in thinking that she could use her powers, which had once reached the peak of the martial spirit level, to fight back against Chu Lingfeng. After all, she had once reached that level. Even though her powers had been forced to decrease, her method of using her powers and experience would definitely be much better than an ordinary martial emperor. Therefore, even though Bai Feng's powers had only just reached the martial emperor level, she could still unleash powers that were far stronger than her current level. Logically speaking, her attacks should be able to restrain Chu Lingfeng's attacks. However, the latter's physique that allowed him to be unafraid of attacks was simply too terrifying. Bai Feng's attacks blasted out one after another, but Chu Lingfeng simply ignored them. Bai Feng's attacks were painful when they landed on his body. However, no matter how painful it was, could it be compared to the times when he had fought for his life in the bloody battle arena in order to increase his powers? To Bai Feng's attacks, they were just like scratching an itch. Furthermore, as Bai Feng's attacks increased, his entire being became like a human-shaped ferocious beast that had been enraged and became even more violent. Bai Feng's face flashed with a look of panic as she was bombarded by such attacks. She could also feel how terrifying Chu Lingfeng was. Yen Nyang's foolish son actually had such talent and physique in battle. Bai Feng's heart was filled with an indescribable jealousy. She knew that all of this was probably inherited from the man who had taken Yen Nyang's virginity. If she had not sent people to chase after Yen Nyang, causing the latter's fetus to be damaged, the current Chu Lingfeng might have been even more stunning. Thinking of this, Bai Feng's heart felt like it was being bitten by ants. If she had known that the man was so powerful, how could she have let Hu Yinyang take advantage of her? Bai Feng kept telling Yen Nyang that the best thing she had done in her life was to snatch Hu Ting away. However, who knew that she was actually going crazy with regret? Because she had snatched Hu Ting away, but she had pushed another man, who was even more powerful, to Hu Yinyang's side. If there was no Hu Yinyang, that man might have been hers. In the end, by the time she realized how powerful that man was, she had already hooked up with Hu Ting. She had no chance to seduce that man at all. In the end, he had no choice but to give the opportunity to his younger sister, Bai Xing. Now that she had left with that man, she did not know what kind of honorable life she was leading in that place. How could a mere young madam of the Huo family compare to that man's status? It was all Hu Yinyang's fault. Chapter 1353. Finally, he found a flaw in Bai Feng's movement technique, and he immediately closed in on Bai Feng. After taking one of Bai Feng's attacks head-on, he sent Bai Feng flying with a punch. Ah! Bai Feng never thought that Chu Lingfeng would be so ruthless. He would rather injure himself in order to take one of her attacks head-on in order to attack her. She was caught off guard and was sent flying by Chu Lingfeng's attack. This time, she was not as lucky as she had been the last time. Chu Lingfeng's punch landed squarely on her chest, causing the left side of her chest to cave in and breaking 3 or 4 of her ribs. This time, she let out a shrill scream as she landed heavily on the ground, almost smashing a hole in the thick blue stone floor below. Chu Lingfeng's figure closed in on her again. Bai Feng had schemed against his mother for so many years and caused his mother to suffer so much. If they had not met his master, he and his mother would have died in some corner of the Blackfield sub-city of Eastern Fence Country. Chu Lingfeng's eyes were filled with murderous intent as he stared at Bai Feng. It was not the first time that he had seen his mother cry secretly because she missed his maternal grandfather and family who. His mother had suffered so much for the sake of raising him. He must avenge his mother. Bang! Chu Lingfeng's punch landed fiercely on Bai Feng. Bai Feng was lying on top of the huge hole in the ground. When she saw Chu Lingfeng's punch coming towards her, her face instantly contorted and changed. No! Bai Feng's expression changed drastically. In the next second, she seemed to have made up her mind as she gritted her teeth fiercely. This is not good. Chu Lingfeng, come back quickly. Not too far away, Luo Qingtong, who had been watching Chu Lingfeng and Bai Feng's battle with Yan Nyang, suddenly narrowed her eyes. A sense of danger rose in her heart. Almost in the next second, her figure darted out and flew towards the place where Chu Lingfeng and Bai Feng were fighting. The moment Luo Qingtong moved, Bai Feng's figure suddenly changed in front of Chu Lingfeng. Suddenly, a pair of wings extended from her back, and limbs appeared under her armpits. She looked like a venomous insect. At the same time, the shadow of a huge venomous insect appeared behind her. Swoosh! 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 Ah! The guards of the Bai family who were knocked out by Luo Qingtong's incapacitating agent suddenly woke up from the intense pain after the threads entered their bodies. In an instant, an extremely sharp and miserable shriek came out of his mouth. Swoosh! Their bodies convulsed violently. Then, the power of the flesh and blood in their bodies dried up and dissipated at a speed visible to the naked eye. In an instant, these people had been sucked dry and turned into dried corpses. Turning one's body into a venomous insect. Luo Qingtong frowned as she watched all this. What Bai Feng had just used was the most evil and cruel of all the venomous arts. This venomous art would harm both the enemy and the user. It should not be used casually. Although it was very powerful, the price to use it was also very frightening. Moreover, it was not something that an ordinary venomous insect user could use. Logically speaking, Bai Feng could not possibly use this venomous art. She must have borrowed the power of something. Chapter 1354. Luo Qingtong's guess was right. When Bai Feng obtained the Gu technique tome from her, she also obtained a Gu dissolving pill, which allowed her to use the Gu dissolving pill when she was in danger. However, the price she had to pay was extremely high. The price was at least 10 years of her lifespan. The longer she used this Gu technique, the more her lifespan would be consumed. At the same time, it would be extremely damaging to her body. If Bai Feng used this Gu technique, she could forget about advancing and breaking through in the future. Furthermore, she would not be able to use any of her powers for a year. She would be no different from a cripple. Therefore, Bai Feng had never thought of using the Gu dissolving pill after obtaining it. As the eldest daughter of the Bai family and the young madam of the Hua family, no one could force her to use this Gu dissolving pill. However, she had never thought that she would be forced to use this goo-dissolving pill in the hands of Hu Yin-Yang's son, whom she despised and disdained the most. Bam! As Bai Feng absorbed the strength of the Bai family guards like a goo worm, her aura instantly soared. Her strength, which had fallen to the level of a martial emperor, quickly recovered. Not only that, but she had also broken through to the saint stage and was about to surpass the saint stage. Boom! After absorbing the strength of the flesh and blood of the guards, Bai Feng's limbs instantly became as sharp as blades and slashed towards Chu Lingfeng. The latter was attacking her with all his might and could not avoid this attack at all. Even if Chu Lingfeng stopped immediately, he would not be able to avoid it. Chu Lingfeng. Luo Qingtong's figure leaped behind Chu Lingfeng at this moment. Lower your head. As Luo Qingtong's figure appeared, Chu Lingfeng immediately lowered his head obediently. He did not care that the limb in front of him was about to slash at him. Luo Qingtong held the 1,000-year soul guiding wood in her left hand and unsheathed the life and death yin-yang sword in her right hand. Almost instantly, the black and white long sword in her hand transformed into the shape of a living blade. A milky white light danced on both ends of the long sword. Bam! Luo Qingtong raised her hand to block. The sword light instantly blocked the limbs that were slashing towards her. Then, she raised her hand and waved it. Heaven battling art. The living blade absorbed the living blade and the dead blade transformed. At the same time, the power of the 1,000-year soul guiding wood rushed into Luo Qingtong's hand and into the life and death yin-yang sword's attack. Boom! A black light flashed. In an instant, the huge blade of light was like the scythe of the Grim Reaper. It dragged a huge, long tail of light and blocked the legs that were slashing at him. However, the power carried by the limbs was so strong that it collided with the sword light from Luo Qingtong's life and death two right sword almost instantly. In an instant, a violent storm of energy was emitted from the place where the two sides collided, raging and spreading in all directions. Luo, two of the Luo of Luo Luo, of Luo Luo of course of the Luo Luo Luo. Bam! Luo Qingtong Luo was sent flying. His back was a bloody mess. He crashed to the ground almost instantly. Chu Lingfeng. Luo Qingtong Luo landed on the ground. Before she could check on Chu Lingfeng's condition, Bai Feng's attack came again. Humph. Today, all of you will die. Bai Feng was crawling on all fours on the ground. The limbs that protruded from her body supported her back, making her look like a huge spider. Chapter 1355. She raised one of her legs and jabbed it towards Luo Qingtong. Once she killed this young man, she would be able to kill Hu Yin-Yang and her son. Then, she would leave this area enveloped by the spell and gather the Bai and Hu family members. All the members of the Bai and families who had come today would all die. Bai Feng's expression was cold and stern. Her legs were like countless sharp blades as they jabbed towards Luo Qingtong. Bang, bang, bang. Luo Qingtong's figure flickered. The light in her eyes was as red as blood. Her figure kept darting and dodging Bai Feng's attacks. After Bai Feng's power had increased, she was indeed difficult to deal with. After all, surpassing the Saint Realm was not comparable to the Saint Realm. If Bai Feng was at the Saint Realm, Luo Qingtong could still think of a way to deal with him. Furthermore, Bai Feng's Gu technique was different from ordinary Gu techniques. Before Bai Feng's lifespan was exhausted, she would not be able to break it. Most importantly, Luo Qingtong frowned. The power of the 1,000-year-old soul guiding wood in her hand was gone. When she had blocked Bai Feng's attack earlier, she had used the death energy that had formed after the guards had died. In addition to the remaining power of the 1,000-year-old soul guiding wood, she was able to block Bai Feng's attack. However, she had no way of retaliating now. Luo Qingtong frowned as she thought of this. Bang, bang, bang. Her figure darted through Bai Feng's attacks. Bai Feng's heart grew more and more terrified. When Luo Qingtong had blocked her attack towards Chu Lingfeng, Bai Feng had not paid much attention to it. She had only thought that Chu Lingfeng had hidden some life-saving technique on him. Now that she saw Luo Qingtong's figure moving through her attacks with ease, her heart froze. Who on earth was this young man? How could a martial great realm cultivator dodge her attacks time and time again when she had increased her power to surpass the Saint realm? Once could be a fluke. So many times, it was definitely not a fluke. This young man was definitely not an ordinary person. Bai Feng was shocked. Her attention was completely diverted to Luo Qingtong. At the same time, his killing intent towards Luo Qingtong was ignited. The other party was so powerful. Whether it was because of her talent or something else, since she was on Hu Yinyang's side, then she had to die. Otherwise, he would definitely become a huge threat to them. Bai Feng made a prompt decision. Swoosh! Threads of energy suddenly burst out from her body and shot towards Luo Qingtong. Those threads of energy were the same attack that Bai Feng had used to absorb the flesh and blood energy of those guards. Once they came into contact with it, their energy would be immediately absorbed by White Phoenix. The power of those threads instantly weaved like a net and swept towards Luo Qingtong. Rip! A blood-red light flashed in Luo Qingtong's eyes. Her figure shifted and dodged the threads of energy that were like a spider's web. However, the power of those threads was extremely violent. In an instant, the sleeves of Luo Qingtong's robes were sliced open by the power of the threads of energy from the heaven and earth. In the next second, a furry little thing fell out from within. That silvery fur, the tip of a pink nose, and a large, soft, fluffy tail. It was the little fox that Yi Qianxian had transformed into. Yin Bao. Chapter 1356. Ha! Seeing this scene, Bai Feng immediately laughed out loud. She was worried that she wouldn't be able to catch Luo Qingtong's weakness. Her opponent was as slippery as a loach. She didn't know how she could see through her attacks, but she couldn't catch her. But it didn't matter. If her opponent wanted to save this little fox, then it was her chance. Seeing Luo Qingtong rush towards the little fox, Bai Feng's expression was cold. Almost instantly, the power of the silk threads around her body suddenly rushed towards Luo Qingtong. But this time, she learned her lesson. She knew that Luo Qingtong had a special ability that allowed her to avoid her attacks. If she rushed towards her opponent like before, she would definitely be seen through by her opponent, and she might even be able to avoid it. Thinking of this, the silk threads that rushed out from her body suddenly spread out in all directions. Swish, swish, swish. As the silk threads flew around her body, they instantly surrounded Luo Qingtong within 100 meters of her body, trapping her in the middle. Then, Bai Feng laughed out loud and tightened the power of the silk threads. Luo Qingtong scooped up the little silver fox in her arms and raised her head to see the power of the silk thread surrounding her from all directions. Different from before, the power of the silk threads had formed a prison, trapping Luo Qingtong completely. Even if Luo Qingtong had an eye technique, her opponent's silk threads had already formed a prison and there was no way for her to avoid it. Seeing this scene, Luo Qingtong's eyebrows furrowed slightly. In her arms, Yi Qianxian's body moved slightly. Previously, he had forcefully used the power that was sealed within the little silver fox's body by the fox demon blood curse and fell into a deep sleep. Now that he had recovered a little, he was immediately alarmed by the commotion outside and opened his eyes. At the same time, Bai Feng suddenly waved the limbs that extended from her body and slashed towards Luo Qingtong. The power that surpassed the Saint realm was extremely fierce and it caused the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and the surroundings to go berserk. Like a violent storm, it rushed towards Luo Qingtong. The power of the silk threads continued to tighten and they were getting closer and closer to Luo Qingtong. Bai Feng wanted Luo Qingtong to have no way to avoid it and no way to escape. As Bai Feng's violent attack approached, Yi Qianxian also discovered the danger that Luo Qingtong was in. He thought for a moment and recalled that Luo Qingtong was trapped in this fatal trap because of this little fox's body. Damn it! This fox demon blood curse. Yi Qianmin had always looked down on everyone and was invincible. He had never thought that there would be a day when his woman would be trapped in order to save him. This was the greatest humiliation of his life. Yi Qianqian's fox-like face was cold. However, he was too small and too adorable. Even though he had put on such a stern expression, Luo Qingtong felt that he was too adorable. Thinking that he had been frightened by the unforeseen event, Luo Qingtong gently patted his little head to comfort him. She then looked coldly at Bai Feng, who was laughing evilly as she attacked. Her mind was racing as she tried to think of a way to escape. Yi Qianqian's face turned green when Luo Qingtong patted him on the head like a child would. However, when he saw that the young girl was in such a dangerous situation, he could not be bothered to dwell on this. Whoosh! After receiving Yi Qianqian's Luo Qingtong's blood-red pupils spun rapidly. She immediately copied Yi Qianqian's heaven battling art in its most perfect state. One sword to destroy heaven. Steal heaven's fortune. Its power was vast and mighty, like the setting sun and the Milky Way. Boom! Luo Qingtong's sword slashed out. In an instant, heaven and earth shook, and blood split the sky. The threads of power that were surrounding Luo Qingtong were all cut off. They turned into ashes in the air. Chapter 1358. What? Bai Feng's eyes instantly widened at the sight of this. She had thought that Luo Qingtong was definitely going to die. She had revealed a smug and arrogant smile on her face just a moment ago. However, in the next second, her smile turned into panic and fear. No! This is impossible. Ah! As soon as the last miserable cry resounded, Bai Feng's figure was instantly blasted flying. She'd been blasted flying by that ray of light. Ah! Bai Feng screamed in agony. The shadow of the goo worm behind her had been destroyed in an instant. The limbs that had extended from her body and the wings on her back had disappeared in an instant. Ah! Her body landed heavily on the ground. This time, Bai Feng did not manage to get up. This is impossible. This is impossible. Her cultivation had surpassed the martial saint level, but she had been sent flying by a martial ancestor. Bai Feng lay on the ground on the verge of death. She could not believe that she had lost to Luo Qingtong. She could have killed Luo Qingtong with a single strike. However, her opponent's power had suddenly increased exponentially. She had defeated her in the end. What is going on? How could such a thing have happened? Bai Feng was in disbelief. At this moment, with a few bangs, the battle on Hu Zhongtian's side had also ended. Bai Changfeng and the others had landed not too far away from Bai Feng. A group of people from the Bai family had gathered. Pfft! Bai Changfeng and the others spat out a mouthful of blood. Many of them had fallen to the ground and lost consciousness. It was unknown whether they were dead or alive. Bai Changfeng and a few others with higher cultivations had also fallen to the ground. They had clearly suffered serious injuries. Dong! Hu Zhongtian and the others landed next to Luo Qingtong. Young master. Luo Qingtong's expression was calm as she looked at Chu Lingfeng. The latter had already gotten up with Yan Nyang's help. Although his injuries were serious, because of his physique, it was not a big problem. Moss. Ninth brother, Chu Lingfeng scratched his head and looked at Luo Qingtong like a child who had done something wrong. He almost caused an accident to Luo Qingtong just now. Only the heavens knew that when he and Yin Yang saw Luo Qingtong being surrounded by Bai Feng's energy threads, their hearts almost stopped. If something really happened to Master because of him, he didn't want to live anymore. With that thought in mind, Chu Lingfeng glared fiercely at Bai Feng, who was lying on the ground, unable to move. It's all because of this bad woman, she almost hurt Master. Chu Lingfeng's gaze was ferocious, and Hu Yinyang's gaze towards Bai Feng was also abnormally cold. Young Master, please leave her to me. Hu Yinyang said coldly. Bai Feng had caused her to be so miserable, and she had almost caused their family Hu to be destroyed. And just now, she had tried to kill Luo Qingtong. The latter had thought that the family whose item was in the bag and had sent a message to Huating, asking him to bring the Hua family's people here. When the time came, Bai Feng would explain the origin of the map of the sage monarch's tomb that she had obtained from the family Hu. It was guaranteed to be flawless. When the time came, the Bai family could rely on the Hua family's strength to obtain the benefits of the sage monarch's tomb map. Chapter 1360. Hua Ting's expression turned cold as he looked at the injured and dead Bai family members around him, as well as the obvious signs of a brutal attack. Especially Bai Feng. As his wife and the young madam of the Hua family, her powers had been crippled. Hua Ting looked furious. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly rang out. The Bai family members have only themselves to blame. Their crimes are all written in these scrolls that are scattered all over the floor. They schemed against my family Hu and almost destroyed my family Hu. Not only that, the Bai family also tampered with other family clans. Let's settle our grievances with each other and take revenge with each other. What's wrong? As this voice rang out, Hu Yinyang's eyes turned cold as she turned around and stood in front of Luo Qingtong. Hua Ting, didn't the Hua family insist that family Hu give you an explanation? Now, this is the explanation we are giving you. It's been more than 10 years. I think it's not too late to give you an explanation. As Hu Yinyang spoke, she lifted her leg and kicked Bai Feng away in front of all the Hua family members. Ah! Bai Feng no longer had any powers left. With great difficulty, she controlled the twisted and hopeless expression on her face. She wanted to cry and complain to Hua Ting about what Hu Zhongtian and the others had done. She wanted to use her status as the young madam of the Hua family to slap them in the face. However, before she could speak, Hu Yinyang kicked her away. Instantly, Bai Feng screamed in agony and fell flat on her face on the ground. You! Bai Feng climbed to her feet with great difficulty. She was about to lash out at Hu Yinyang and complain to Hua Ting when the latter's voice suddenly rang out. Mother Yin. Hua Ting stared at Hu Yinyang in shock. This woman had changed so much compared to before. She was cold, heroic, graceful, and noble. Hua Ting looked at Hu Yinyang in disbelief. If not for the fact that the woman's face had not changed and that he had remembered her face all these years, Hua Ting would have thought that he had mistaken her for someone else. That's right. It's me. Compared to Hua Ting's excitement, Hu Yinyang's expression was cold and indifferent. She raised her hand and picked up a scroll on the ground. Together with the evidence of what the Bai family had done to the Hu family and herself, she threw it in front of Hua Ting. Hua Ting, more than 10 years ago, you said that I let you down. Your Hua family even said that I disgraced your Hua family and wanted me to pay with my life. Now, I'll return all those words to you. Back then, the one who humiliated your Hua clan was not me, but her. Hu Yinyang said as she pointed at Bai Feng who had been kicked away by her. I must take the lives of the Bai family members. It's up to you whether the Hua family is willing to swallow this vexation or not. As Hu Yinyang threw the documents in her hand, Hua Ting's face was filled with disbelief. He caught a piece of paper that was flying in the air and lifted his head to read everything on it. Then, he looked at Bai Feng in disbelief. You were the one who set Mother Yen up back then. Hua Ting could not believe all this. Bai Feng was too good at pretending. In the Hua family, she was the young Madame Hua who was well liked by her in-laws and respected by everyone. Chapter 1361. Not only that, she had also done something to the Hua family. That was right. The scrolls that Luo Qingtong had produced contained information about how Bai Feng had targeted the Hua family. Bai Feng had indeed done all these things. After all, she had married into the Hua family as a nobody. Naturally, there were people who had looked down on her. Some of the people who had opposed her and Hua Ting had also been secretly eliminated by Bai Feng. Just like what she had done to the other families. Of course, it was not so easy to infiltrate a top family. Bai Feng had been able to do it and had planted her own hands and pawns in the Hua family because she was the young madam of the Hua family. When Hua Ting read the records in the scrolls, he could not help but feel a wave of anger. No. Hua Ting, believe me. I didn't do this. The family whose people are slandering me on purpose. You've all been deceived by Hu Yenyang. Bai Feng had taken advantage of the fact that Hua Ting and the rest had just arrived and were completely clueless about the situation and wanted to distort the truth. Bai Feng was confident that Hua Ting would believe her. After all, she was his wife, the woman he loved. Bai Feng thought of this and said in a tearful voice, Hua Ting, you must believe me. This is all because Yen Yang is jealous that I'm with you. That's why she's slandering me on purpose. She wants to get rid of me and the Bai family. Bai Feng appeared to be sobbing bitterly, but her heart was secretly gloating. She was waiting for Hua Ting to believe her and stand up for her. However, just as she finished speaking, a slap landed fiercely on her face. Wham! Bai Feng's entire body was thrown into the air by this powerful slap. She immediately somersaulted a few times in the air before landing heavily on the ground. SL*T. Hua Ting's expression was cold and stern. He stared at Bai Feng, who had been thrown into the air, and his heart was filled with a violent rage. Yen Yang is not that kind of person. Bai Feng, do you know why I had married you in the first place? Hua Ting's voice was icy. Because your family background was low and could accept Yen Yang. Yen Yang had lost her chastity before marriage and was pregnant. It was impossible for her to enter the Hua family. If Hua Ting wanted to be with Yen Yang, he could only make her a concubine or a mistress. Because of this, he married Bai Feng. It was because the other party's family background was low and easy to control. At the same time, she was also Yen Yang's good sister. But who would have thought that before he could tell Yen Yang about it, the latter had disappeared along with the child in her womb. All these years, Hua Ting had never forgotten Hu Yen Yang. Now that he heard that the reason why she had lost her chastity before marriage and missed him, was all because of Bai Feng, how could he tolerate this? As for what Bai Feng had said, he didn't believe a single word. Hu Yenyang was not that kind of person. You. After all these years, you still haven't forgotten Hu Yenyang. You've always loved her. Bai Feng was stunned by Hua Ting's slap. She had imagined countless scenes of Hua Ting getting angry at her, or even attacking her. It could be because of the Hua family, or for other reasons. However, she never thought that he would do this because of Hu Yenyang. She had thought that she had stolen Hu Yenyang's man and gloated over it for half her life. In the end, she had not gotten anything in return. What a complete joke. Her man had always been thinking about Hu Yenyang. Chapter 1362. She used to be so proud of herself, but now she was in such a sorry state. Bai Feng was about to lose her mind when she thought about how she had acted like a clown in front of Hu Yenyang. That's impossible. You love me, you've always loved me. How could it be Hu Yenyang, that SL*T and loose woman? She pointed at Yen Yang hysterically, unable to believe this fact. Shut up. Hua Ting's eyes narrowed coldly as he slapped Bai Feng again, causing her to spit out blood and fly backward. Bai Feng's body landed heavily on the ground. She was on her last breath and did not even have the strength to move. Yin Yang. Hua Ting turned to look at Hu Yin Yang and said softly, I was wrong in the past, I didn't protect you well enough. I won't interfere in the Bai family's affairs anymore. I'll leave Bai Feng in your hands. Bai Feng's eyes widened when she heard Hua Ting's words. Hua Ting wants to hand me over to Hu Yin Yang. Isn't that asking me to die? If I end up in family Hu's hands, how am I going to survive? Furthermore, Hu Yin Yang had kept me alive on purpose to torture me. Bai Feng saw it all clearly and her heart was filled with indescribable despair. Everything Hua Ting had said was true. He only had Hu Yin Yang in his heart all this time. To think that she had thought that she had won against Hu Yin Yang, now, it looks like she was nothing but a joke. Now, the Bai family has fallen into family Hu's hands and the voodoo sect has been destroyed. She no longer has any bargaining chips. She no longer has any chance of turning the tables. It's over. It's over for me and the Bai family. With that thought in mind, Bai Feng began to laugh hysterically. Ha! Ha! Her laughter was shrill like a ghost. In the next second, she stopped laughing and looked sharply at Luo Qingtong and the others. Hu Yin Yang, I'm not going to have it easy. Family Hu won't have it easy either. Ha! Hua Ting, do you know why I called you here? It's for the map of the sage monarch's tomb. And that map is in family Hu's hands. It's given to family Hu by the man who took Yin Yang's virginity. That's why I did everything I could to deal with the Hu family. I schemed against Hu Zhongtian to kill him. Ha! You can only blame Hu Yin Yang for being too lucky. If I had known that the thing that the man gave them before he left was the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb, I would have snatched it from him. Just when I was about to kill family Hu Yin Yang and the others came back. He even brought some secret helpers with him. Otherwise, the Hu clan will be destroyed. Ha 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 ha. Buys to hysterical laughter. Wasn't Hua Ting deeply in love with Hu Yin Yang? Wasn't he going to hand her over to Hu Yin Yang? Very well. She wanted to see if the Hua family could sit still under the temptation of the map. She wanted to see how deep Hua Ting's love for Hu Yin Yang was. Ha ha ha. Bai Feng's voice was shrill. Chapter 1363. He also told them that there were several maps of the sage monarch's tomb. The more complete the map was, the better it would be for them to explore the sage monarch's tomb. When this news spread, all the families in the wild city were secretly searching for information about the sage monarch's tomb map. Who would have thought that there would be one in the family whose possession? Luo Qingtong's brows furrowed as everyone looked over. She had already issued a gag order to the Bai family and Bai Feng to not mention anything about the sage monarch's tomb map. She did not expect Bai Feng to be unaffected. It should be because the parasite in her body was still lingering, which affected the gag order. Forget it. Since it was exposed, so be it. Anyway, there was still a map in the Ouyang family's hands. Luo Qingtong originally wanted to use some method to get it from the Ouyang family. Since it was exposed now, she might as well use it in the open. Luo Qingtong did not want to attract too much trouble before the sage monarch's tomb was opened, but it did not mean that she was afraid of trouble. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent, but Hu Yin Yang and the others were shocked. They did not expect that Bai Feng would reveal the matter of the map so easily. They had deliberately spared Bai Feng and the Bai family's lives. Firstly, it was to better avenge themselves. Secondly, it was to give Bai Feng and the others some hope, to let them think that they might have a chance to turn the tables, so they could keep the secret of the map. That way, they would not reveal the sage monarch's tomb map in front of so many families. They did not expect to fail at the last moment. Hua Ting's actions had caused Bai Feng to lose all hope and exposed everything. "Master, let's go," Hu Yennyang whispered to Luo Qingtong. They had already promised to give the map to Luo Qingtong. Moreover, even if they did not agree with the relationship between Luo Qingtong, Hu Yennyang, and the family Hu, they would only give the map to Luo Qingtong and no one else. Hu Yennyang, Hu Zhongtian, and the others immediately prepared to leave. However, now that the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb had been exposed, how could the people present allow them to leave? Among them, the Huo clan was the worst. They did not expect Bai Feng to send them a message about the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. Fortunately, they had heard from Bai Feng that this matter was related to the future development of the Huo family and their position in the wilderness city, so they immediately sent a few more elders and Hua Ting over. At this moment, he heard Bai Feng's words and saw that Hu Zhongtian and the others wanted to leave. Immediately, the elders gave their orders and led a group of people from the Huo family to surround Luo Qingtong and family Hu Yennyang, Hu Zhongtian. With family Hu's strength, you're not qualified to keep the map of the sage monarch's tomb. Hand it over to the Huo clan. Since you almost became in-laws with the Huo family, we can give you some benefits as a reward. Among the group of people from the Huo clan, an elder who had surpassed the saint stage said. He was the strongest among the people who came with Hua Ting to the Bai clan. At this moment, he was looking at Hu Zhongtian and the others arrogantly. In the eyes of this elder who had surpassed the saint stage, the fact that they were willing to give family Hu some benefits in exchange for the map of the sage monarch's tomb was already a huge favor. After all, they could have killed everyone in the Hu clan and snatched the map from them. Chapter 1364. Upon hearing his words, Hu Zhongtian and the others' faces instantly darkened. That's impossible. Hu Yennyang looked at them coldly. Why should we hand over family Hu's belongings to you? Using some compensation to exchange for it. Did the Huo family really think they were fools? How could the value of the Saint Monarch's tomb's map be exchanged for some benefits? So what if they wanted to take it by force? Why did they have to make it sound so dignified, as if family Hu should be grateful to them? Hu Yennyang's expression was cold. Her gaze swept across the Huo family members present, then stopped at Hua Ting, who was outside the encirclement and had not moved. Hua Ting, you keep saying that you didn't protect me back then. Then tell them to back off and let us leave. I believe that there is still a trace of affection between us. As Hu Yennyang's voice rang out, everyone's eyes were all focused on Hua Ting. The latter was still in a daze. He looked at Hu Yennyang, and his expression changed drastically. The Saint Monarch's tomb map, that was a map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. The tomb of a Saint Rudiment stage powerhouse. Ever since they heard the news, the Huo family had been searching for the whereabouts of the map. They wanted to gain an advantage in the opening of the Saint Monarch's tomb this time. There were many top families in the wild city, and the Huo family was not the most powerful among them. If someone else obtained the Saint Monarch's tomb map and obtained all the benefits in the tomb, then the Huo family might be replaced by another family. Hua Ting's expression changed, and the Huo family elders also spoke up. Young master, don't forget your identity. Hu Yennyang is not worthy of your protection. Don't forget, young master, you are not the only descendant in the Huo family. Are you really going to do this for Hu Yennyang? Are you going to give up everything in the Huo family? Not to mention, even if family Hu escapes from here, they might not be able to protect the existence of the map. Young master, don't do anything stupid. Young master, please spare a thought for the Huo family. If we miss this opportunity, our Huo clan may not be able to get another map of the sage monarch's tomb. As the elders spoke, Hua Ting's expression changed even more. There was a struggle in his eyes. In the end, he gritted his teeth and looked at Hu Yennyang. Yennyang, I'm sorry. Hand over that map. I'll treat you well. When he said this, he seemed to have grasped onto something that made him feel at ease. Then, he softened his voice and said to Hu Yennyang, we have missed so much before. Now that the misunderstanding has been resolved, we should be together again. Hand over the map of the sage monarch's tomb. I'll go plead with my father and the others. When our whole clan gains something in the Saint King's tomb and improves our strength, father and the others will be very happy. When that time comes, you'll be able to enter the whole family again. Yang, when that time comes, we'll be able to be together again. Family who will also be able to rise because of our relationship with the whole family. Isn't that good? Handing over the map will be extremely beneficial to both you and us. Before Hu Ting could finish speaking, Hu Yennyang had already laughed loudly. Ha! She even thought of ways to infuriate them so that she could restrain these people so that Luo Qingtong could leave safely when she took action later. Why did her master suddenly speak up and take responsibility for this matter? Hu Yennyang was anxious and was about to speak up to drag the matter back to her. However, Luo Qingtong raised her hand and took out a piece of the map of the Saint King's tomb. She looked at the people of the Huo family and said, "This is the map of the Saint King's tomb. Do you want it?" Chapter 1366. It wasn't just them, even the people from the other clans who were watching from a distance were also envious. Who didn't know that having the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb was equivalent to having an advantage in the exploration of the tomb? Although the Ouyang family had previously announced the news of the Saint Monarch's tomb, they had said that as long as the family clans came, they could enter the tomb to explore. But who didn't know that the chances of obtaining treasures with and without a map were completely different? Everyone was envious, but Luo Qingtong's expression was very indifferent. She held the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in one hand and tossed it around. This map of the Saint Monarch's tomb was naturally obtained from the Celestial Palace. Hu Zhongtian and the others had not given her the map of family Hu yet. However, Hu Zhongtian had just told her the location of the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb and asked her to retrieve it after leaving this place. But how could Luo Qingtong be the kind of person who would suffer a loss and leave? In her previous life, when she was not strong enough, she would rather suffer 1,000 casualties than suffer 800 casualties every time she was hunted down. Moreover, these people from the Huo family were not qualified to make her suffer a loss and leave. Since the people from family who did not want to leave her, then she would naturally not abandon them. The map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. Seeing the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in Luo Qingtong's hand, the elders of the Huo family immediately flew over to snatch it. Boom! As their figures pierced through the air, a cold sound was heard. Luo Qingtong's eyes suddenly narrowed. She was about to make a move. Suddenly, her pair of blood-red eyes swept across a place not far away. Immediately, she stopped moving and then looked at that place and said, "Are you done hiding there and watching the show? Why don't you get out here?" Following Luo Qingtong's voice, everyone immediately looked in that direction. However, as far as the eye could see, there was nothing. There were only a few parasol trees planted in the courtyard, full of branches and green leaves swaying in the breeze. With the cultivation of the people present, unless it was a powerhouse above the saint level, it would be impossible to hide from their aura detection. But how could such a powerhouse appear here? Not to mention that this unknown youth in front of them had berated them with words like, "Get out here." The elders surrounding Luo Qingtong looked at Luo Qingtong coldly and mockingly. "Kid, don't pretend to be a ghost. No matter how hard you struggle you can't escape from our palms. Give us the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb." Looking at their figures pouncing over, those pairs of claws stretched towards him, but there was no movement in the direction he was looking at. Luo Qingtong's Luo Qingtong, Luo Luoz's, she at s's, SSSSS, Luo's SSS Luo, as the, as where's, as t's Luo's where she's SSSS, SSS Luo Qingtong was so angry that she laughed. She suddenly raised her hand, and with a swoosh, the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in her hand flew to the place where the shout came from. Bang! As the map was thrown out by Luo Qingtong, the expressions of the elders of the Huo family changed. They immediately turned around and grabbed at the place where the map fell. The strength of their bodies skyrocketed, extremely powerful. They were afraid that the people from the other families would suddenly make a move at this time and snatch this map. Boom! Several of them grabbed at the map at the same time. Chapter 1367. With a boom, their figures seemed to have been hit by something, and they were sent flying backward. Bang, bang, bang. The few of them crashed heavily onto the ground, almost brushing against the ground as they were sent flying for nearly 100 meters. Elders. The Huo clan's people were dumbfounded. Huo Ting and the others hurriedly ran to the Huo clan's elders and helped them up. Pfft. When those people were helped up, they spat out a mouthful of blood. It was obvious that their injuries were very serious. Who is it? They looked in horror at the place where they had been sent flying. There, the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb was in someone's hand. A light purple figure appeared at this moment. I can't believe you actually found out. Following this seductive and lazy voice, Yu Si Huang's devilishly handsome face looked gloomily in the direction of Luo Qingtong. He had thought that Luo Qingtong was deliberately tricking him. He didn't expect that she had actually seen through his tracks. But how was this possible? He had hidden from everyone's eyes. Even those experts who had surpassed the saint realm did not discover his existence and arrival. How was he caught by Luo Qingtong? Yu Si Huang felt very stifled. He had thought that when Luo Qingtong was in danger, he would make a move and win the reputation of being a hero who saved the damsel in distress. At that time, Luo Qingtong might look at him in a new light. At that time, his position in Luo Qingtong's heart might not be any worse than Yi Qinqian's. In the end, before he could do anything. Now, he was discovered by someone. Yu Si Huang's heart was resentful. Beside him, Yu Xingqi's mouth twitched. I told you that you couldn't hide from sister. This stupid brother still wanted to be a hero who saved the damsel in distress. Now, not only did he not save the damsel in distress, but he was also discovered. Yu Xingqi rolled her eyes at him. Yu Si Huang could not be bothered with her. He threw a coquettish glance at Luo Qingtong, then lazily tossed the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in his hand and said with a smile, "Yeah, is this the token of love that little Zhou gave me?" What a surprise! Yu Xingqi did not know how to ridicule her brother's thick skin. Was the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb a token of love? You didn't come out for a long time, so sister used it to smash you, okay? Forcefully turning it into a token of love, Yu Xingqi was also convinced by his elder brother's ability to forcefully commit adultery. Luo Qingtong was also speechless. She was about to speak. However, at this moment, the group of Huo clan disciples that had followed Huo Ting to the Bai clan spoke. Pfft. I don't know where you came from, you sissy rabbit. How dare you play tricks here and injure a few of our Huo clan's elders? Do you know what kind of existence our Huo clan? We don't care how you injured the elders. Immediately hand over the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. Otherwise, we will make sure you can't walk out of the Bai clan. The Huo clan's disciples looked at Yu Si Huang's enchanting face and heard what he said to Luo Qingtong. They did not think that he was some kind of expert. The other party must be playing tricks. They did not know what kind of shameful method he used to injure the elders. Those methods can be used once, but not many times. Chapter 1368. Pfft. Ha. As the voices of the Huo clan's disciples sounded, Luo Qingtong and the others didn't react. Yu Xingqi was already holding doo-doo, holding his stomach and laughing. I can't take it anymore. Sissy. Uncle Rabbit. Ha ha ha. Yu Xingqi hugged Dudu and almost fell to the ground laughing. She had lived for so many years, but this was the first time she heard someone scold her big brother like this. It was really too cool. Wasn't it? Ha ha ha. Speaking of which, she also had this feeling. In front of Luo Qingtong, her big brother's style was really too indescribable. However, due to the tyrannical power, she dared to think but didn't dare to say it. The Huo clan's people were really heroes. She admired them too much, didn't she? Yu Xingqi was laughing beside Yu Sihuang. He pointed at Yu Sihuang and laughed until he almost couldn't breathe. Yu Sihuang's face turned green. Luo Qingtong and the others also couldn't help but laugh. Especially Hu Yinyang. She knew about Yu Sihuang. The latter was the king of the southern region's 3 islands and 7 lands. Hu Yinyang helped Luo Qingtong take care of all the matters of the Blackfields mansion. Naturally, she had met him face to face. Not only that, Yu Sihuang had also sneaked into the Blackfields main city and went to Luo Qingtong's Blackfield mansion to look for her whereabouts. Therefore, Yin Yang was very clear about Yu Sihuang's identity. But it was because she was clear that she found it very funny. Because this king of the southern region, his style in front of others was not like when he was facing Luo Qingtong. That was the coexistence of majesty and enchanting, domineering and evildoer. It was definitely not like this, indescribable style. And those experts of the Blackfield mansion who came with Yen Yang also had an indescribable shock on their faces. Yi Qianxian previously announced to the people of the Blackfield that no one from the 3 islands and 7 lands of the southern region was allowed to enter any city under the name of the Blackfield. This was especially true for the people of the Imperial Sect and the sect master of the Imperial Sect. They had all seen the portrait posted by the Blackfield. Naturally, they knew that the purple-robed man in front of them was the sect leader of the Imperial Sect, the king of the 3 islands and 7 lands of the southern region. But, wasn't the other party's style a little too different from the king of the southern region, the leader of the Imperial Sect? While they were still in shock, the elders of the Huo family, who had just been helped up by the disciples of the Huo family, slipped and almost fell down again when they heard the words of the disciples of the Huo family. Naturally, it was because of the words of the Huo clan's disciples. They were people who directly faced Yu Sihuang, so they naturally knew that when the other party dealt with them, it wasn't because he used some so-called shameful method. Instead, it was a genuine attack. At this moment, they were all shocked and trying to guess the identity of the other party. In the end, these troublesome children of his actually went up against the other party directly. He even used such insults to provoke the other party. When these elders of the Huo family heard the words of the Huo family's disciples, they almost fainted from anger. Before they could open their mouths to stop these disciples, Yu Sihuang's cold voice had already sounded at this moment. Good. Good. Sissy, Master Rabbit. Yu Sihuang had been in charge of the Imperial Sect for so many years, but this was the first time he heard someone daring to use such words to scold him in front of his face. You people of the Huo family are very good. Chapter 1369. His face, which was more beautiful than a flower, was filled with a soul-stirring coldness. The smile on Yu Sihuang's face was cold. In the next second, he suddenly made his move. Bang, bang, bang. No one saw how he made his move. They only saw him wave his hand. In an instant, the Huo family disciples who had insulted him and supported the Huo family elders were turned into a pile of flesh and blood. With a bang, they exploded in front of everyone. The remaining Huo family members were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. You. Who are you? The elders of the Huo clan didn't even have time to react before the Huo clan disciples around them were all killed. At that moment, they were even more shocked. Huo Ting's face was also twitching violently. He looked at Yu Sihuang. He did not know how family who knew such a powerful expert. With a wave of his hand, the other party had repelled several Hu family elders and even took the lives of a group of Hu family disciples. They did not even see how the other party moved. The difference in strength was too great. You see Huang. The man's voice was indifferent. At this moment, Yu Si Huang still had that devilishly lazy appearance, but at this moment, no one would be able to link him with the title of Sissy, Rabbit Grandpa. The man's aura was strong and domineering. He was obviously the same person, but his temperament had completely changed. Not everyone could enjoy the treatment that Yu Si Huang had given Luo Qingtong. The only outcome for those who challenged the authority of a king was death. All of you, break one of your own arms and scram. Yu Si Huang looked at the remaining Hu family members indifferently and said, "Tell the person in charge of the Hu family that family who is under my protection. This is the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. If they have the ability, they can come and take it." Yu Si Huang said and immediately winked at Luo Qingtong. "Little Zhou, don't you think so?" Luo Qingtong glanced at him without saying anything. Then, she looked at the group of people from the Hu family and said, "So, did you hear what he said clearly?" Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, but the Hu family was still in a daze. Yu Si Huang. As early as when Yu Si Huang announced his name, these Hu clan people already clearly knew the other party's identity. King of the Southern Region, Imperial Emperor Sect Master. Someone exclaimed and revealed Yu Si Huang's identity. Everyone present, including the people from the other families and the Hu family, all looked at Yu Si Huang in shock. No one had imagined that this monstrously handsome young man would actually be the king of the 3 islands and 7 lands of the southern domain. Imperial Sect Master, Yu Si Huang. No wonder he was so powerful. Everyone in the Hu family was shocked beyond words. Indeed, this was the far west desolate region, not the southern region. As for the imperial family, they had no power here. But, Yu Si Huang is the king of the southern region. The southern region's power in the far west desolate region was not small. Those people, if Yu Si Huang spoke, would definitely stand on his side. So, Yu Si Huang was not to be trifled with. Family who actually had such a powerful person behind him. Everyone in the Hu family was annoyed. Chapter 1370. Wouldn't it be better to work with him? This way, the ruler of the imperial sect would also stand on the Hu family's side. When the Saint King's tomb opened, the Hu family's gains might even be greater than the Ouyang family's. In the future, it would only be a matter of time before they surpassed the Ouyang family and became the #1 family in Wild City. However, all of this was now ruined by them. Not only did they not get the map of the Saint King's tomb, they had also completely offended the ruler of the southern region. Everyone in the Hu family was stunned. As for the few elders who had been so arrogant earlier, asking Hu Ting not to help Hu Yenyang and even offering some benefits in exchange for the map of the Saint King's tomb with family Hu, the Hu family elders' faces turned green and black. If there was a big hole in front of them at this moment, they would definitely jump in without hesitation. They had previously despised family Hu for being too weak and thought that with the Hu family's strength, they could completely crush the other party. Since that was the case, why should they work together? Of course, it was by force. However, who would have thought that the end result would be like this? Even if they knew that Chu Lingfeng had once taken out the Imperial Sect's guardian token at the city gate, they would never have thought that the Imperial Sect Master would be by his side and stay with family Hu. Moreover, he was so protective of family Hu. Their complexions were alternating between green and white. Among them, Hu Ting's expression was the most interesting. He clearly had the opportunity to help Yen Yang previously, but in the end, he chose to shrink back. Moreover, he shamelessly asked Yen Yang to give up the map of the Saint King's tomb in exchange for a chance to re-enter the Hu family. He was really shameless. He had said it so matter-of-factly before, but this plot twist was a slap in the face. The Hu clan had the support of an existence like the imperial sect master behind them. Why would they need to use such a humble method to beg to enter the Hu clan? Moreover, all of this was Hu Ting's self-righteousness. Yan Nyang did not want to enter the Hu family at all. Hu Ting's face was full of shame and embarrassment. He took a step forward, wanting to say something to Hu Yannyang. The latter had already taken a step back and said to them coldly, "Young Master Hu, please." The faces of the Hu family members turned pale. When the family Hu people saw this, their expressions did not change at all. The arrogance of the Hu family was obvious to all. If it wasn't for Yu Si Huang's strength and influence, they wouldn't be able to bear it. Their faces were pale, and they were in despair. It would be their family who. Moreover, it was very likely to implicate Luo Qingtong and cause her to get into trouble. How could Hu Zhongtian and the others tolerate this? Luo Qingtong was family Hu's savior. Their expressions were indifferent. The people from the other families who were watching all of this immediately rejoiced in their hearts. Because of the Hu family, they had not been able to make a move previously. Otherwise, they would end up in a worse state than Hu Ting and his crew. After all, Hu Ting and the rest were from the top aristocratic families. They weren't like that. While the crowd was rejoicing in their hearts, Hu Ting and his crew had already gritted their teeth, cut off one of their arms, and left dejectedly. Looking at their backs as they left, the Bai family members lying on the ground finally regained their senses. Chapter 1371. Bai Feng's expression was one of madness. She could not believe what she was seeing. How could this be? Behind the Hu clan, there was actually such a strong and powerful figure supporting them. The ruler of the southern region, the leader of the imperial royal sect. How could this be? If family Hu knew such a powerful figure, why was it so difficult for them to deal with Bai Feng and the others? They even needed the help of so many other families. They even set up a trap to expose what Bai Feng and the others had done so that they could deal with the Bai family. What was going on? Perhaps Bai Feng was in disbelief. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She raised her eyebrows and looked at Bai Feng. She transmitted her voice to her, "Are you very surprised?" "That's because I asked him to clean up the aftermath of the voodoo sect's extermination. That was why Yu Si Huang and Yu Xingqi were not around." Luo Qingtong did not expect the Bai family and family Hu's second elders people to be so suicidal. After she tricked Yu Si Huang into helping her clean up the aftermath, they came to her door to seek their own deaths. Otherwise, why would she need to use so many tricks to deal with them? You! Luo Qingtong's words made Bai Feng's eyes widen. Her eyes bulged out like a dead fish's eyes as she stared at Luo Qingtong. "It's you. You're the one who exterminated the voodoo." Bai Feng screamed in horror. Her voice was sharp. However, before she could utter the words voodoo sect, she suddenly realized that she couldn't utter the words voodoo sect no matter how hard she tried. When she said the word voodoo, her voice was automatically silenced. All that was left was her sharp expression and her lips twitching continuously. "It's you. It's you." Bai Feng screamed crazily. She finally understood why her voodoo sect was exterminated and why the mother of venomous insects in Hu Fei's body was taken out. Not only that, he had also absorbed so much of her power and increased his power. Also, Hu Zhongtian's injuries should not have allowed him to survive. All of this was done by Luo Qingtong. It was this youth called Yi Jiu in front of her that had ruined everything she had carefully planned, all of her plans and ambitions. Congratulations, you got it right. But there's no reward. Luo Qingtong looked indifferently at Bai Feng's hysterical appearance. The other party was extremely similar to Luo Xining and the others. They always thought that they were the best in the world. He didn't know how to be grateful or how to give back. The Bai family had risen with the help of family Hu, but in the end, they had trampled family Hu to the bottom of the mud. They had stepped on the blood and tears of Yen Yang and family Hu to climb up. Luo Qingtong still said the same thing. She admired a person's ambition, but she didn't appreciate the other party's ingratitude. They were worse than pigs and dogs. Oh right, I forgot to tell you something. Yen Yang is the general manager that I left behind in the Black Field. I have another name, and that is Evil Dr. Ghost Eye. The moment Luo Qingtong said this, Bai Feng broke down even more and became even crazier. She desperately lay on the ground and shook her head. She wanted to shout out Luo Qingtong's name, but she could not succeed no matter how hard she tried. People could only hear her shouting "impossible" with all her might. They thought that she could not accept that family who had such a strong cultivator as Yu Si Huang behind him. Chapter 1372. Shopkeeper Yen of the Black Field. She was in charge of all the affairs of the evil Dr. Ghost Eye in the Black Field. She was also in charge of all her properties and businesses. In the dark domain, there was no one who did not know about it. Even Bai Feng, who was in the western wilderness, had heard of her. However, no one would have thought that shopkeeper Yen was actually Yen Yang. Ah, ah, ah. Bai Feng screamed hysterically. She could not believe that after scheming her entire life, she had lost everything to Hu Yen Yang. Yen Yang had an extremely high status in the Black Field. If her identity was exposed, she would be on equal footing with the top aristocratic families. Furthermore, the man she thought she had in her hands, Hua Ting, was also obsessed with Hu Yen Yang. Bai Feng was unable to accept this series of blows. Luo Qingtong looked at her crazy appearance and retracted her gaze indifferently. Then, she lifted her leg and kicked her in front of Yen Yang. Yen Yang, I'll leave her to you. Including these people from the Bai family. As Luo Qingtong spoke, family whose men had already gone over and dragged the surviving members of the Bai family over, throwing them in front of Hu Zhongtian and the rest. Bai Changfeng and the rest, who had been so arrogant just a moment ago, were now either unconscious or barely breathing. They looked at Hu Zhongtian and the rest in shock. They did not know how things had turned out this way. The Hua family was here. Shouldn't they be saved? Bai Feng was the young mistress of the Hua family. The people of the Bai family would never be trampled on by others. However, reality had proven them wrong. The Hua family could not save them. Even when Bai Feng had revealed the fact that family who had the map of the Holy King's tomb in her final moments of despair, she had not been able to save the Bai family from being destroyed. Not only that, the Hua family had also been chased away by family Hu. This was something that would never happen even in their dreams. However, it was happening right in front of them now. When they saw Bai Feng, who seemed to have lost her mind, the Bai family members' faces were filled with indescribable despair. They had been relying on Bai Feng as their last hope. Now, Bai Feng was clearly going crazy. What did that young man say to her to make her so desperate and crazy? Hu Yenyang could vaguely guess what had happened. To Bai Feng, the thing that could hurt her the most was that she was living a better life than her. Mystery should have told Bai Feng about her identity and position in the Black region, and even exposed her own name as the demonic physician Ghost Eyes. Otherwise, Bai Feng would not have broken. Speaking of which, Bai Feng was quite pitiful. She had schemed her entire life and was jealous of all the good things she had. She wanted to replace her at all costs. What did she get in the end? She did not gain anything. Hua Ting did not take her seriously at all, and the Bai family would fall apart because of her ambition. Bai family Hua buys Bai families buys Bai. Otherwise, family who would have been trampled to death by Bai Feng and the Bai family. they would not even know what had happened. Yen Yang would have to live in the black field with guilt for the rest of her life. She would not know what her father and big brother were going through. No. No. If he didn't have a master, he wouldn't have to live with guilt. She and Ling Feng would have died in the Blackfield sub-city of Dongli Nation. Yen Yang looked at Luo Qingtong gratefully as she thought of this. Chapter 1373. Yu Si Huang walked to Luo Qingtong's side and asked with a smile, "Tong Tong, how was it? Wasn't my performance just now too cool?" As he spoke, he threw a charming look at Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong didn't say anything, but Yu Xingqi, who was holding the little white cat, had already started to mutter. "My eyes," she didn't finish her words, but Yu Si Huang's face had already turned completely black. Yu Xingqi. Following Yu Si Huang's roar, Yu Xingqi had already hugged the little white cat and hid behind Luo Qingtong's back. With a pitiful face, she said, "Sister, look. My brother is going to abuse me again. I'll be your little sister, okay? I don't want such a cruel brother." Yu Si Huang's face turned green when he heard these words. This little witch, in order to be Luo Qingtong's little sister, she really wanted to blacken him to death. Did she think that he wanted a little sister like her who would always cheat him? "Go away from me." He pulled Yu Xingqi aside with a face full of resentment, then looked at Luo Qingtong and said, "Tong Tong, this time I helped you so much, are you really not going to consider giving me a reward? A kiss won't do, a hug or something is also fine." As Yu Si Huang was speaking, Luo Qingtong didn't even have time to open her mouth. The little fox that was originally lying in her arms suddenly jumped up and scratched at Yu Si Huang. "It's you again, this fox." Yu Si Huang was smiling as he approached Luo Qingtong. He didn't have any defense in his heart and was almost scratched. When he dodged behind him, he saw that the one who scratched him last time, the little fox that Yi Qianxian gave to Luo Qingtong. He immediately became angry. "It's this fox again." Yu Si Huang seriously suspected that Yi Qianxian had trained this fox to scratch him whenever it saw him. Otherwise, why would this fox target him time and time again? And every time, it would interrupt his good deed. Yu Si Huang thought about it and clenched his teeth. He raised his hand to grab the little silver fox. Seeing his palm coming, Yi Qianxian transformed into the little silver fox's fur stood up. The 4 claws on its little paws impressively stretched out. One man and one fox were about to have a big fight, but Luo Qingtong's hand stretched out at this time and blocked Yu Si Huang's attack. She also pulled Yi Qianxian back into her arms. "Enough, how old are you? You still can't get along with a little fox." Luo Qingtong's face looked indifferently. The latter's face was filled with resentment. Yi Qianren also snorted coldly. But its little face, its face as the Tong's face fox looked. "Wait until he regains his human form, then he will deal with this Yu Si Huang. How dare he approach Luo Qingtong when I'm not here?" Yi Qianqian's eyes were cold. He didn't want to bother with Yu Si Huang anymore. He buried his head back into Luo Qingtong's arms. But at this time, Luo Qingtong's voice suddenly rang in his ears. "In Bao. Yi Qianxian." Following Luo Qingtong's voice, Yi Qianqian's fur instantly stood up. His whole body stiffened in Luo Qingtong's arms. He didn't know how to react. She found out. She knew that this little fox was him. Chapter 1374. Before he could react, Luo Qingtong, who was on the other side, waited for a while. When Yi Qianren did not react, she suddenly laughed. "Hey, what am I thinking?" After she said that, she smiled and kissed the silver fox's pink nose. She actually thought that the silver fox was Yi Qianxian. But it wasn't her fault. Who asked this little fox to be able to use Yi Qianqian's power? The power that had been injected into her body was indeed Yi Qianqian's. But now it seemed that it was all because of the ring, right? As Luo Qingtong thought of this, she raised her hand and stroked the 10-directional dragon ring on the silver fox's paw. Then she smiled and retracted her hand. But she didn't know that Yi Qianqian's heart was on a roller coaster ride. It was too exciting. He didn't know what to say. Should he say that he was too shocked to react? Otherwise, if he had answered Luo Qingtong when she called his name, he would have been exposed. Yi Qianqian's heart was filled with indescribable joy. He was being kept as a pet by his own woman, and was even being tamed. He would hide it in his heart for the rest of his life. He would never say it out loud. Luo Qingtong's attention had returned to the Bai family. She looked at the terrified Bai family members and said to Hu Yannyang and the others, "Take them all back for interrogation, no matter how big or small, everything must be clarified. Especially the matter of sending Bai Jintang to Fenghua City. Just who did it? Find out everything. Also, I want all the details about the sage monarch's tomb." Family who had been far away from the center of Wild City for too long. They had almost lost their status as a mid-level family, so they didn't know as much as the Bai family. If that wasn't the case, they would have known that the item in their hands was the map of the sage monarch's tomb. It was only after the Bai family came knocking on their door that they were able to confirm it. If he had known in advance, family who could have sought refuge with a top-notch family, he would not have been afraid of the Bai family's threat at all. Moreover, he wouldn't have been forced to the brink of destruction by the Bai family. Although the Bai clan was only a middle-ranked clan, with the support of the White Phoenix Voodoo sect, the Bai clan's foundation actually far surpassed that of ordinary middle-ranked clans. They already had the qualifications to aspire to be a top-ranked clan. Coupled with Bai Feng's presence in the Huo clan, she would definitely know more about the Saint Monarch's tomb than the average person. Luo Qingtong naturally wouldn't miss this opportunity to inquire about information. She wanted to find out why the Ouyang clan wanted to announce the location of the Saint King's tomb. Was there something involved in all of this? Luo Qingtong and the others left with the Bai family's people. After Luo Qingtong and the others left the Bai family, the people from the other families who had followed them to the Bai family also left after wreaking havoc in the Bai family. They didn't find anything valuable in the Bai family. All of the Bai family's hidden treasures had already been looted when Luo Qingtong sneaked into the Bai family. The things that were left behind were just some deceptive and worthless things. Not only that, Luo Qingtong also left behind all kinds of evidence of the Bai family's crimes. It also included the news that the Voodoo sect belonged to the Bai family. Chapter 1375. But others didn't know about it. Moreover, the Bai family had benefited a lot from the Voodoo sect. These things couldn't be washed away. As for the Huo family, they were also implicated in this. This was because Bai Feng had used the Voodoo sect to do many things for the Huo family in order to raise their status. Previously, all of these things had been attributed to the Bai family. Now that it was exposed, all the families in Wilderness City looked at the Huo family with strange gazes. As for the Huo family, they almost wanted to eat Bai Feng alive. Not to mention that Hu Ting and the others who went to the Bai family had all broken an arm when they returned. Not only that, none of the elite disciples had returned. All of them were killed by Yu Sihuang. In the eyes of the Huo family, this was all Bai Feng's fault. If the other party had told them clearly that the family who had the whereabouts of the map of the sage monarch's tomb, they would have been able to obtain it. They would have obtained the map of the sage monarch's tomb long ago. How would they have provoked a powerhouse like Yu Sihuang to come and support the family who? It made the Huo family the target of public criticism. Not only did their reputation among the small families in Wilderness City plummet, but several Huo family elders and Hu Ting's arms were also crippled. Even though their family had the best medicine that could reattach their arms, they were unable to do so. But to recover to the point where they could use their arms as freely as before, who knew how much time they would need to recuperate and train? It's really a woman's fault. In the whole family, the whole family head was furious. It was not only because the whole family's reputation had been damaged, but also because the duck meat in his mouth had flown away. The map of the sage monarch's tomb. According to the Ouyang family, there were a total of 4 incomplete maps of the sage monarch's tomb. Together, it was the complete map of the sage monarch's tomb. Those who had the map of the sage monarch's tomb would naturally have the advantage when entering the tomb in the future. The whole family had almost obtained the map of the sage monarch's tomb, but in the end, they missed it. It really made people feel indignant. If Bai Feng and the others had not been captured by Hu Zhongtian and the others and taken into the family, who was rescued and brought back to the Huo family, would not have had a good time. The Huo family head wished he could tear her apart now. After throwing a tantrum, Patriarch Huo coldly looked at the group of Huo family elders beside him and said, "Have you found out? Why is the imperial sect master so protective of family Hu?" She had never heard of family Hu being involved with the royal family. When family Hu was weak, no forces in the southern region extended a helping hand to them. Now that the imperial sect master was so supportive of family Hu, it was really inconceivable. Reporting to Lord, the matter has been investigated clearly. Everything is related to that young man called Yi Jiu. The other party seems to be on good terms with Chu Lingfeng, addressing Chu Lingfeng as Big Brother. When he was outside the city gate, he used the imperial family sect's guardian token to help Chu Lingfeng escape. According to the information we found, the man who was following beside Yi Jiu with a veil hat covering his face should be the sect master of the imperial sect. He should be the one who gave Chu Lingfeng the Great Altar Protector's decree to help him escape. As the top family in Wild City, the Huo family naturally knew what happened in Wild City like the back of their hand. They did not care before because they felt that there was no need to care. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.